Hey guys, welcome back to Scoop City. I'm Chase Daniel, and as you can see, I'm hosting solo today. Diana Rossini is breaking news at the league meetings, but we have some amazing guests set up for you today. The owners are set to meet again this week, and the headline is, you guessed it, the Tush Push. This rule change came up at last owners meeting after gaining more momentum than maybe anticipated. Could it actually be banned? More to come on that when former VP of Officiating for the NFL and current rules analyst for Fox Sports, Dean Blandino, joins us. Plus, Caleb Williams wanted to be a Viking. What are we doing? Will the drama in Chicago hold the second-year quarterback back, or will Ben Johnson unlock the offense's potential? But we really should start things off with quarterback news that our girl broke, Diana. At the end of last week, Brock Purdy and the 49ers agreed to a 5-year extension that pays the quarterback $265 million. He was mystery relevant. Now he's making $265 million. Here's what we're hearing around the league. Brock Purdy goes from mystery relevant and pick number 262 to the $265 million man. The Athletic's Vic Tafur joins us in Scoop City to talk Brock and the 49ers. And in case you were under a rock, let me just tell you what went down last Friday. They agreed to a 5-year, $265 million extension that ties him to the 49ers until 2030. Purdy gets $181 million in guaranteed money, which, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. And Purdy will receive over $165 million in the first 3 years of the new deal. The deal averages out to be around $53 million per year, and Purdy gets $55 million in new money on average for the first 3 years. This slots him tied for 7th highest paid quarterback. Tua is up there. Jared Goff is up there. And in his first 3 seasons with the 49ers, he's been phenomenal. Vic, I don't know if you follow me at all or anything. I am a huge Brock Purdy fan. He's started 36 games and he's won 23 of them. He's been to a Super Bowl, 2 NFC championships games, thrown for 9,500 yards. We can just go on and on and on. Bring us through this deal, man. How in the world did this go down? We knew it was coming down the pipeline, but take us inside.
I think it was a kind of cool thing where both sides were kind of thinking the same thing. Like, we're not going to break the bank. We're going to get you paid a fair deal. There was a lot of drama last year with Trent Williams and Ayuk, and they want to avoid that. And I think, when you're mystery relevant, I think you don't really deal in drama. You kind of like, you get what you think you have coming, and you're happy with that. And clearly, you mentioned the numbers, $181 million guaranteed. It sounds crazy, but it also sounds fair in this market. I think he's kind of proven. He's got a high floor. Still got an upside. I think he's kind of showed last year what he can do when guys were hurt. So I think teammates swear by him. They say he's that guy. He's kind of come in, unassuming, kind of earned his stripes, and yeah, it sounds crazy, but I think it's a fair payday. I think both sides are happy with it.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. Like, some people are saying, "Hey, it's an overpay." Some people are like, "Oh, it's just the right spot." I think it's just the right spot because a lot of people, rightfully so, out there that don't know a lot about how deals get done like this, they look at the APY, which is the average per year. Right now, it says 53. It slots them literally like $100,000 behind Tua. However, that makes him the 7th highest paid. And they're like, well, he's not the 7th best quarterback in the NFL. And I tend to disagree with that. But my whole thing is, when you look at it like this, and that is a percentage tied to the team's salary cap, which is how a lot of GMs and a lot of teams look at this. He comes in right below 19% of his yearly salary for a team salary cap. That ranks him 14th overall. To me, that makes a lot of sense. Can you speak to people that are saying, hey, this is an overpay? Because I could not disagree more. It's going to look like a bargain when the salary cap goes above $300 million.
Yeah, like you said, 14th. You look at some of the names, even with the average per year, guys who are right above him, like Trevor Lawrence. I mean, just Trevor Lawrence shown he's a top 5, top 10 guy, I mean, even Tua. So I think you're looking at a
Yeah.
guy who's kind of proven himself. And again, to me, it's all about the floor. Like, I mean, he's shown he's a pretty good quarterback. He's not going to get worse. If anything, he'll get better. And in a couple of years, this average will probably fall. It'll be lower in terms of the way he ranks among the quarterbacks. So you lock him up. I think that was a key part of this team's plan this offseason. They lost 8 starters from last year. There's some roster turnover, but you look at the core guys, and there's still 7 like core, stud players who are still
Yeah.
there, and he's one of them. I mean, some people don't realize that around the league. Some people say, you know what, he's still Mr. Irrelevant. But like I said, I think he's shown himself. He's proven teammates and coaches and to his GM that he's the guy.
Was the call to extend Purdy an organizational call, or was it Kyle Shanahan saying, "Hey, you're my guy. We want you for the next 5 years"?
I think both. I think definitely he's proven he's Kyle's guy. I think he kind of earned that a couple of years ago. He's kind of he's jumped all the guys in the roster who were above him, who are getting more money. I think organizationally, I think if you're John Lynch or the owner, you look at the whole Trey Lance debacle, and this guy kind of saved you. I mean, he wound up wasting 3 draft picks, high draft picks on Trey Lance, who was a total bust and a total miscalculation by the organization. And you'd be in really bad shape if not for Brock Purdy kind of coming on, Mr. Relevant last pick, earns a starting job, is actually good, actually gets better, actually has some leadership moxie, he carries him well in the locker room. So just saved the day for them. I think they kind of owed him this, and they realized that. And like I said, they were happy with this deal. He's happy with this deal. So no one's looking to get even more rich than they already are. I think they wanted a fair deal, and this is a quote unquote fair deal.
Yeah, and what's the view of him within the 49ers organization? Because in my opinion, right, they probably wouldn't do this if they don't think they can get back to a Super Bowl. However, they have lost a lot of talent, and I know they've parted ways with quite a few guys. What's the view on him? Can he lead them to another Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think they're pretty confident. I think you look at I mentioned the core guys. Christian McCaffrey seems like he's fully healthy, fully back to go. Trent Williams still back. So there's still Nick Bosa. Still some really great players in this roster, and you're hoping to build around them. They had a huge draft class, a bunch of defensive guys they brought in. They have high hopes for those guys. So yeah, Ayo could be back. I think not before too long. And Ricky Purcell, I think, is a guy that have a lot of upside. There's definitely, I think, George Kittle. There's still a lot of talent on offense. I think they can get back to Super Bowl with Brock Purdy.
All right, Vic, we got to ask you about Fred Warner. The news is literally breaking as we are recording this. The 49ers and all pro linebacker Fred Warner have agreed to terms on a new 3-year contract extension worth a whopping $63 million, and he gets $56.7 million guaranteed. He's the highest paid interior backer in the entire NFL. He surpasses Roquan Smith. We say all that. Man, what a day for Fred Warner. What does he bring to the table? What does this mean for the 49ers?
It just means that they got another guy they want to lock up for a long time. I guess he's shown he's kind of, arguably the best linebacker in the league. I think people love his play both, around the league. I think he's shown also he's a great leader in house. I think they talk about, talk to the young guys who were in the locker room last week, the rookies, they all talk about, hey, man, Fred Warner is the guy. He's going to lead us. He's going to talk to us already. He should lead by example. So I think the veterans the same way. It's just a guy who clearly has what it takes to lead this team both on and off the field.
And looking at the loss of Dre Greenlaw to the Denver Broncos, you can imagine that this is probably a huge deal for the 49ers to get their future locked up. How do you think he plays back into Robert Saleh's scheme? He is now the unquestioned leader. He has been for the 49ers. How do you think this matches with Robert Saleh's scheme?
I think it matches well. I think we talked about how Salah wants to bring back, the kind of the old flavor he had back in the day. So I think you have a guy here who can make plays all over the field. He's definitely can read defenses and kind of show the younger guys on the field around him, like Nick Martin, a linebacker, rookie linebacker, probably playing next to him. He'll tell Nick where to go and kind of what to do and kind of be a nice guiding force for these young guys on this defense.
So let's just recap this offseason for the 49ers before we get off this, because it has been nothing but exceptional stuff. They paid Brock Purdy. Okay. They paid George Kittle. They rehired Robert Saleh. They re-signed Fred Warner. They rehauled the special teams. They added 18 rookies. They've overseen health returns during CMC coming back. They've worked to tailor the offense around Purdy. They've renovated a new defense. I mean, they have the easiest schedule in the NFL. What are the expectations for Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers this year after missing the playoffs last year?
It's kinda funny 'cause we rewind, like, 3 months ago, everybody was freaking out, like, "They lost 8 starters, they're horrible, they're not what are they doing?" They're like, "Well, yeah, they had no idea," but now you look, and they're in good shape. Like you mentioned, the schedule is really nice and definitely, especially in the back end. So I think you're looking at, return to that 11-12 win level to get back to the playoffs and contend. I think they have a shot. And again, a lot depends on these young guys. You mentioned the 5 starters on defense, rookie starters on defense, so those guys gotta come up, but the offense should be fine, I think, and the defense has enough juice, I think, around those young guys just to get them back into that playoff mix.
Yeah, Vic, thanks so much for joining us, man. I'm glad that for right now it's been a drama less offseason, unlike last offseason for you guys, and hopefully it carries over to some team success for the 49ers. Thanks for so much for joining us.
All right, bud. Appreciate it.
All right, coming up, could the tush push be shoved right out of the game? The NFL owners are set to vote on banning the play. Former VP of Officiating Dean Blandino joins us with his thoughts next. All right, everyone, welcome back to Scoop City. The NFL owners are scheduled to meet this week to vote on banning our favorite play, the Tush Push. Former VP of Officiating for the NFL and current rules analyst for Fox Sports and current teammate Dean Blandino joins us to talk about the fate of the Tush Push. Dean, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Good to catch up.
Yes. So the tush push ban, introduced by Green Bay, gained momentum during the April's owners meetings. They then tabled that for a vote for this week, coming Tuesday or Wednesday. And Green Bay's reasons were really simple: player safety, pace of play. Tell us what you know about banning the tush push.
Well, I personally, I don't think player safety is the right. I don't. Not that I think that's disingenuous, because look, there's inherent risk in playing football. You know better than me. And I don't think the data says that the tush push is any more dangerous than other short yardage plays. I think this is more about, is this, to me, it's more about, is this a fair play? Is this, should you be able to push the ball carrier to gain that advantage when for many years prior to 2006, it was illegal. You couldn't push the ball carrier. And so, usually in my experience, when something gets tabled to March, from the March meeting to the May meeting, that usually means there's an undercurrent, especially from the league office perspective, that they want to try to get this out. So look, if I had to bet, I would think it probably gets voted out. I'm not 100% sure. I don't think this is a slam dunk, but I do feel like there is a, just no pun intended, but there is a pretty big push to that's gaining momentum to get this out.
And that's my whole thing is there's just zero injury history. And even NFL executive Troy Vincent said there were no injuries on the play in 2024. I think it's a way to get a play out of the playbook, in my opinion, Dean, that one team is really, really good at. And people are saying, oh, it's a rugby scrum. Oh, it's a this play. Under the current rule, as it is right now, it is a legal play. So we had an even split at the April meeting. How do you think teams will adjust to it if the rules do pass?
Well, what's going to be interesting is the downfield stuff, because what this approach initially, Green Bay, the proposal was to get rid of just the tush push, and the league then took a step back and said, no, let's look at this big picture, and let's look at the downfield, the scrum, the lineman coming in pushing that pile. I think that's going to be more difficult. I think that's the one, that was the reason why the language came out in the early 2000s, because it wasn't being officiated. The tush push didn't exist, right? This play,
Yep.
as we see it today, didn't exist. So I think it's that downfield stuff that's going to be tougher to officiate. I think when those linemen are coming in, and that runner gets stacked up, and now the linemen are pushing, the defensive linemen are pushing. That's what's going to be interesting to me, as to, are we going to throw flags? Are we just going to blow the whistle?
Yeah.
That's going to be a challenge.
And that's sort of my next question, because I saw Jim Harbaugh of the Chargers come out and say something like a way around the rule as it's written, like, hey, can I get extra offensive linemen, and can you push the guards if you can't push the center? And I think there's already ways that people are trying to figure out ways around it. If you're a referee, how do you actually officiate that play if there are little workarounds around it? Because it seems to me like it'll be a judgment call on the field.
Yeah, and whenever you're writing rules, whenever you're changing rules, there's three main things you look at. You look at player safety, you look at competitive fairness, and then you look at can the play be officiated consistently. And you never want to write rules that the officials are going to have a hard time judging in real time. And that's one of those things. I think the language does still cover pushing the guards. It really you can't push a teammate or a ball carrier, only you can block an opponent, that type of thing. And I think initially, if this goes in, you're going to see a lot of flags, especially in the preseason, to kind of just, hey, can't do this, can't do this, can't do this. Really hit it hard so that teams don't even attempt it. But in my experience, that happens, and then over time, you kinda get a little more lax, a little more you don't throw as many flags, and then it's like, "All right, we're back where we started," and that's always the concern with a change like this. You've gotta consistently officiate it, and you can't back off because, like you said, teams are gonna try to figure out a way around it. They're gonna adjust, they're gonna try to do different things, and ultimately, the biggest deterrent is the flag, right? That
Yeah.
whether it's a 10-yard penalty, which I think that's what it'll be, that's going to be the biggest deterrent. And if you don't have that, there's really there's no incentive for teams to not do it.
Yeah, and obviously if the Eagles, you're like, "Hey, we have perfected this." They believe it's a traditional football play where you have, coaches like Sean McVay come out and said, "I just don't like it. It just looks weird," right?
Yeah.
Ho is it considered a traditional football play in the terms of officials right now, or is it just a point to, like, where it's like a rugby scrum? Like, how does the league and the NFL, I'm just trying to figure out, Dean. I'm obviously for it. I'm trying to figure out why they are trying to ban something that someone else is really good at, because there's no entry concerns.
Sure. Yeah. I think the way I look at it, look, and I've kind of gone both ways on this. I think aesthetically, look, you think of the NFL, and I don't think this is a good reason to get rid of it, but it's like, does this play, showcase the athletic, the grace, the talent? It probably doesn't, but it's a Eagles have perfected it. It's not an easy play. Watch
Yeah.
around the NFL and college football when other teams try to do it. So there is skill involved. There is a tactical way to do this and do it well and put in the work. I just think that for me, my reason is again, it is a hard play to officiate when you've got all those bodies in that middle of that pile, and it's really tough, even in replay, to find the football. I just think when you think of we don't let the defense push the runner back. Once the runner's stopped and forward progress is stopped,
Yep.
and he gets pushed back 10 yards, right? We don't make him lose that 10 yards. We bring him back to where the progress was stopped. And here the offense is gaining the advantage, right? The defense may have them stacked up, and now we're going to get 4 or 5 guys pushing, and they're going to gain 5 or 6, 7 yards, whatever it may be. So I think there is that unfairness to me would be a reason to say let's get rid of it. Like we talked about, the player safety data, the data isn't there.
Absolutely. A couple more questions, and I'll let you go because I know you're busy at Big Ten meetings. So when I was talking to Diana about this play, and she was at the league meetings and she was talking to a ton of people, it was obviously an even split vote. She said a lot of the teams were focused on how the rule was written when they were trying to ban it, right? And the whole thing that came up with her was immediate. Do you see like a potential complete ban of pushing players at all? Or do you think there are certain loopholes that certain teams maybe, hey, I want it written this way. Hey, you can't immediately push a player, or maybe you can only use it on 4th and goal from the red zone. Do you think that is something that could happen? Or do you think, in your opinion, the NFL just say, "Hey, just let's just no blurred lines. Let's just cut it out."
I think they're heading in because that language, right? That word immediate was problematic because what
Yes,
is immediate, right? What can I wait a second and now we can push the runner? And that would have been really hard to judge for the officials. So I think where they've headed now is bright line. You can't push the ball carrier. You can't push a teammate. And again, now the next step, if that does pass, they basically went back to the old language, the pre 2006 language that said you can't push, pull, lift a runner off the ground to aid him to gain yardage. So they basically went back to that language, which covers all of it. And
that
and now,
makes
if
yeah.
that gets passed, now you're going to have to officiate it, and that's going to be the next challenge if this does go through.
And the last question for me before I let you go, thanks so much for joining us. It just seems that they're picking and choosing. When I say they, the NFL and teams are picking and choosing rules or stuff to place in and out of the game, right? If you're banning a normal football play as it's written right now, do you think this could lead to other plays being banned for safety concerns? And I do air quotations
Sure,
because I don't know
sure.
if you can see me, but like that's the precedent that it sets, in my opinion.
There's no question. Look, this and this is unusual. I have not, in my experience, very few times was it one play that one team or one player was either very good at or using where the league targeted that. Going back, remember Roy Williams played for the Cowboys, the safety, the
Yep.
horse collar. This was a guy that was using that technique more than other players were at the time, and it was obviously there was real safety concern on that play. I think you talk to the health and safety people on the tush push, they are concerned about the potential. But again, I don't think there's any data that says it's more or less likely than on other short yardage plays. So I don't know if there's a real concern um, going forward, because I don't think there are other plays right now like this tush push. It's so unique and it has
Yeah.
become such a lightning rod. And again, and look, and look, I don't know if the Eagles don't win the Super Bowl, are we talking about this? I don't,
That's a
it's a
good
fair
point.
question. It's a fair question, but again, I'm going to be very interested to see how this plays out, as I'm sure everybody else will be, and we'll see what the vote is.
D man, I appreciate you taking the time. Thanks so much for joining us. Coming up, drama in Chicago ahead of Caleb Williams' second year with the Bears. How can he overcome it? And how can Ben Johnson unlock another level for the young quarterback? That's next on Scoop City. All right, guys, welcome back to Scoop City. You got to listen to this story because it's almost unbelievable. Late last week, a story from ESPN Seth Wickersham, his new book, American Kings, a biography of the quarterback. It detailed Caleb Williams' journey to becoming a Chicago Bear. And Williams' father, Carl, was reportedly exploring options for his son to avoid going to the Bears. All right, this is an interesting situation. Let me lay it out for you if you haven't heard, and then I'm going to react to it because I do have quite a bit of thoughts. So, the Bears quarterback and father explored options to avoid getting drafted by the Bears, meaning he wanted to pull an Eli Manning situation where Eli was drafted by the Chargers, went to New York. It's an interesting situation because it really hasn't been done a long time. They even looked at some litigation and the collective bargaining agreement on how they could actually not go number one overall. Eventually, the story goes on to say, hey, you know what? Caleb Williams said, I want to play for Chicago. So that crushed it. Here's the interesting thing. So, Carl, Caleb's father, he actually consulted with Archie Manning, who orchestrated the Eli Manning trade. And during the scouting combine, like I was saying, Williams decided, and keyword here, decided, he wanted to be drafted by the Vikings. But Bears GM at the time, Ryan Poles, told Williams that the Bears would be drafting him no matter what, because it is a draft. It's not a lottery. If you're number one and you're the best player available, that's where you're going to go. Williams later changed his mind after a pre-draft meeting and told his father, I can do it for this team. I'm going to the Bears. Seth Wickersham's book, get this, so American Kings, it's expected to come out September 9th, 2025. And if you don't have your calendars handy, that is a Tuesday, one day after the Monday Night Football Week 1 Vikings at Bears game. So, a couple reactions from me. It lacks self-awareness from Caleb Williams, and it doesn't only lack self-awareness, it lacks a little bit of self-awareness from his dad as well. Look, I get it. You have the power. You were the number 1 overall pick. You were a so quote unquote generational talent. For me, not wanting to join the Bears or any team for that matter, it lacks a little bit of competitiveness. How about saying, I'm the one that's going to turn this franchise around? Okay, so that's one angle of it. The real angle of it that sort of irked me was the film study part. And I think this fault sort of lies with both Caleb and the Bears coaching staff. How in the world, if you so called don't know how to watch film, because that's what Caleb Williams had said. Hey, I don't know how to watch film. Someone just tells me what to turn on and I turn on. I find that hard to believe. You went to USC and Oklahoma and you followed Lincoln Riley, who's known in the ranks of college as being able to develop quarterbacks. He's had quite a few Heisman winners. So how do you not know how to watch film? That's my biggest thing. And I don't believe mostly the fact that the Bears coaching staff didn't work with him at all on how to watch film. And look, NFL franchises are different. Sometimes you have coaches that are really involved and say, hey, you need to watch this, you need to watch that. But my thing is, you're an NFL athlete and you're a generational talent that went number one overall. If you didn't know how to watch film, or if the Bears weren't working with you, which I find a hard time to believe, um, you could have picked up the phone. Guess who you could have called? You could have called Eli Manning. He would have picked up. You could have called Drew Brees. I live right by him. I know for a fact he would have picked up. You could have called Tom Brady, who's currently mentoring Shedeur Sanders, and he would have picked up as well. You could have asked all of those potential Hall of Famers um, how to watch film. What do you watch? And here's my thing about the NFL quarterback position. There's a difference on how to watch film and when you watch film. Like the how, okay, I get it. But to actually watch the film, if you open up an iPad that the team gives you, you're going to see cut-ups first, second, third down. You're going to see down and distance on third down. You're going to see second, third and 2 to 3, third and 4 to 6. You're going to get these advanced scouting reports from teams even the week before you play, and it tells you exactly what you should be expecting. So the fact that an NFL quarterback should have to have his hand held, in my opinion, watching film, that's what I struggle with. Look, I also blame the Bears a little bit. They didn't have a backup quarterback that was a veteran. They had some guys that were young. Tyson Bagent. Brett Rippon was there in camp, but he wasn't there during the season to teach Caleb Williams a routine. And everyone needs a routine watching film. Look, Tuesdays are the off day. And most NFL quarterbacks are in watching film. Now, maybe not tell you what to watch, but how to watch. Hey, you're watching for corners and you're watching for safeties and you're watching for tells from the defensive front. This is all stuff that a lot of guys nowadays are learning in high school, and a lot of guys have perfected it by college. Now, look, I get it. Like for me, I learned from a future Hall of Famer, Drew Brees. I was a rookie. And I'll remember the first day that I went into the Saints organization. The quarterback coach at the time, Joe Lombardi, told me, hey, just do what Drew does. And I said, well, what do you mean? He's like, just do what Drew does and you will be successful. Sure enough, 14 years later, I was successful. But also in that room was Mark Brunell. We had an exact routine on how to watch the film. And I'm going to break this down for you. So Sunday, and Caleb, you can use this if you want. Many NFL quarterbacks follow this. So just you could have reached out to somebody like Drew Brees or Peyton Manning even. Sunday, you play the game, okay? You go home, you hang out, you relax. Monday, you're in, you get a workout in. And Monday, you are with the coaches and you are watching the film. You are breaking it down. What went right, what went wrong. And on Monday, before you go home, you get an advanced scouting report. Say you're playing the Titans next Sunday. You'll get an advanced scouting report that's 30 pages thick, and it'll tell you how to beat the Titans. And it'll tell you, hey, here's what they like to do on first and second down. Here's what they like to do on third down. Here's what they like to do in the red zone. Here's what they like to do in 2 minutes. Usually don't watch a lot of film of the next opponent on Monday because you just want to go relax. So that happens. Tuesday's off day. Most players don't come in that day because it's a coach's day to get ready. They game plan that day. Quarterbacks, though, everywhere I've ever been, and this is what Drew taught me, we're in from 8 a.m. to 2 or 3 p.m. And what are you doing during that time? You have a notebook out. You have a pen and you have a piece of paper, and you're watching, in our way, you're watching the last 4 games. Say you're playing the Titans from the Tennessee Titans. And when you're watching those games, each game should take about an hour because you're looking at how the defensive coordinator calls it. Who's the defensive coordinator? When do they like to pressure? How do they like to pressure? And you're just getting a snapshot of what this team looks like. And when I'm saying these days, the key thing here is you're always staying one day ahead of the rest of the team. You're pretty much on the coach's schedule. So when you come in on a Wednesday AM, Wednesday is the first full practice day in the NFL. When you come in on a Wednesday AM, okay, you will watch base, dog, and blitzes. And Chase is like, just talk to me normal. Not it is first and second down pressures. What does a team do on first and second down? And you're writing it down. The quarterback coach will come in. Hey, here's how we protect this. Look, here's how we need to do this. There's a whole plan of it, but you're in early. Okay. Then you have a full day of practice. When everyone else goes home, guess what? You're staying because third down day is Thursday, but we're going to watch it on Wednesday PM. We're going to get a snapshot of what they do on third down. So on Thursday, when they come in and they install the plays, we have a head start. Then Thursday AM, you're doing it all again, but you're in before everyone else and you're watching third down pressures. You're getting a pressure plan together on how to protect yourself at the line of scrimmage. And Thursday night, guess what? You're staying. You're ordering pizza. You're hanging with the quarterbacks and you're studying red zone. Why are you studying red zone, Chase? Well, red zone comes on Friday. Okay, Friday morning, you're in early. You're studying 2 minute because 2 minutes is the most important part of the game. You're studying what they do, how their tendencies are. What does the coach like to bring pressure after you cross the 50? Does the coach like to bring pressure if you are on third down and you're all this stuff? You're learning their tendencies. You have to put the man hours in. Saturday's a free day. You can do whatever you want. I say all this because it's a bad look for Chicago. It's a bad look for Caleb a little bit. And I know we've moved on, but I just wanted to make sure that we hit on that because watching film is paramount for NFL quarterbacks' success. Long gone are the days you can just show up and not know what they're doing because so much of the game is played mentally. Thank you for listening to my soapbox. It was confusing. It may be awesome. You may not like it. Those are my thoughts on how to improve the Chicago Bears. It's going to be interesting to see Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson this year because I've been with Ben Johnson in the Detroit Lions organization before. He knows his stuff. He will have Caleb Williams prepared. The Bears have done everything in their power to put a legitimate team around Caleb Williams. I think this year the pressure is fully on Caleb Williams. That's going to do it for our show. Thank you for listening to Scoop City. Tag me next time.
Thanks for tuning into Scoop City. If you want to hear more, make sure you like and subscribe. We drop our new episodes every Tuesday and Friday.